You're right. I've still got my glasses on. Globetrotting is a staple trope of the spy and thriller genres. It is such a staple trope that if you watched, say, a James Bond film, for example, and it wasn't set in a bunch of different places all over the planet, you'd think something was up. You'd think they were doing it on purpose or something, like a writing challenge for themselves, like they were doing some sort of bottle episode in movie form. The Bourne franchise took a lot from the Bond franchise. Then the Bond franchise took even more from the Bourne franchise. It's a real Ouroboros of men drowning other men in sinks. But one of the things Bourne took from Bond is the globetrotting. If you're watching a Bourne movie, you better believe you're going all over the place. Except really that first one, it's kind of low-key. It's probably the best in the whole franchise, but it is very France-centric, unfortunately. The second film in the series, though, does not have that problem. It ramps up the globetrotting to Bondian levels. We are here, there, and everywhere, but is it entirely necessary? Is it just globetrotting for the sake of globetrotting? Is there a need for us to be going all over the place like this? Well, that's what I want to find out in this video. I'm going to track everywhere that Matt Damon goes, how far it actually is, and the plot reason for why he's going there. If there isn't, in my infallible opinion, a good enough story reason for him being in a place, I will have no choice but to declare it globetrotting for the sake of globetrotting. Okay, so our man Jason starts in Goa, India. That is about here, on the west coast, towards the south of the country. As this movie is quite European based, this starting point is some bad news for his mileage. Bourne's Indian peace is shattered by Karl Urban showing up, trying to kill him, but then accidentally killing his girlfriend instead. Side note, this is Karl Urban, right? You know him, you love him. This is former Argentinian football player Leonardo Joa. He played for Leicester, amongst other teams. I will die on the hill that these two men look the same. I am mocked routinely for this opinion, but I will not be silenced. They look the same. It's the eyes. Anyway, after all that, Bourne goes to Naples, Italy. That is roughly 4,000 miles. All of these are basically as the crow flies, I should say. I don't know if he did any stopovers in Dubai or anything. From Naples, he travels to Munich. That is 520 miles. From Munich, he travels to Berlin. That is roughly 310 miles. From Berlin, he travels to Moscow. That is roughly 1,000 miles. And finally, from Moscow, he travels to New York City. That is roughly 4,600 miles. In total, Jason Bourne travels roughly 10,430 miles in the Bourne Supremacy. That's like nothing compared to Taylor Swift's one-woman mission to destroy the planet, but it is still quite a lot of mileage, especially if not all of it was necessary. How much of it was? As I said, what we're going to do is we're going to look at each of the trips and ask why did Bourne make them. The first, from Goa to Naples, as I said, that is about 4,000 miles. Bourne had better have a good reason to make this trip. Well, he thinks it was the CIA that showed up and attacked him in India. He thinks it was the US that tried to kill him and ended up killing his girlfriend. It wasn't the CIA. It was some Russian dude. The same Russian dude that is simultaneously framing him for the murders of two people involved in a CIA information deal. Bourne doesn't know any of that though. So he travels 4,000 miles for reasons. It's not made entirely clear. It's either for answers from the CIA or like revenge or both. He intentionally uses a passport with his real name so it flags up on the CIA system. He lets himself get interrogated so he can clone a CIA operative's phone. Then he takes that agent's car and listens to a bugged phone call to get names and phone numbers. All very deliberate. It is on this tapped phone call that he learns that he's being framed and learns to go to Berlin via Munich, his second leg. Why Naples though? That is never really explained. That exact question is asked in the film, but it is never really answered. It is explained that, as I said, he is allowing them to see that he is on the move, so they'll send people after him, so he can get his answers and his revenge. but it never explains why specifically Naples. Could he not have put himself back on the CIA's radar in India? He knows they'll come after him. He thinks they already have. He could have got... Hang on. How does Carl Urban find him in India? I don't think that's ever explained either. Does that matter? I think it might. Anyway, he could have gone to anywhere there are cameras. He could have done anything that involved his passport. Anything that involved him getting onto the grid. He could have walked past the US embassy and given the CCTV cameras that they absolutely would have the finger, or held up a sign saying, "I am Jason Bourne." Anything to get them to come to him instead of inexplicably going to... I was going to say going to them, but it isn't really that either. He just goes to what is essentially a completely random mid to large European city. Going to Valencia or Toulouse or Salzburg or Antwerp or Rotterdam or Hamburg or flipping Portsmouth would have had the exact same effect. The things he does in Naples, the phone bugging, the information gathering, could have been done anywhere there is an American presence. Is there an American presence in India? Of course there is. India is a global superpower. There'll be American representatives and operatives scuttling about all over the place. So why travel 4,000 miles to Italy? Genuinely, I think it might have something to do with time zones. So the movie makes sense with what time of day it is where. If everyone's crammed together in Central Europe, they're all working off the same clocks essentially. But you can write around that. So there is no real reason, I think, that he goes to Naples. I think this trip is globetrotting for the sake of globetrotting. I'm also not sure he needs to go to Germany. If we're working off the new mileage conservation mindset that he stayed in India. Remember, in Naples, he learns that the CIA thinks he killed 2 people in Berlin. But he knows he didn't do that. What better way to prove your innocence than to be on the other side of the planet? Does he want to go to Berlin? Yes, because that's where his answers are. But again, the CIA thinks he killed 2 guys. If they don't see those 4,000 miles as an alibi, they'll be tripping over themselves to get to where Bourne is, to where he's just shown himself, in India. He can, as I've said a gajillion times at this point, make them come to him. They want to, and he can get his answers then. Unfortunately, we're rewriting the whole movie at this point, and that's not what I'm setting out to do in this video. We're just looking at each leg of the journey and seeing if it's justified. So the next leg. Naples to Munich. In Munich, he tracks down a guy that he knows is there, another super soldier like him, with information. Things don't go so smoothly, and Bourne does a trademark W.H. Smith's kill, beating the guy with a magazine. But not before learning that the person he thought was sending guys after him is dead, and that the whole super soldier program has been shut down. Maybe it wasn't the CIA after all. So if we're saying that Bourne did go to Naples for no reason, then this is a good trip. Travelling 520 miles from Naples to Munich was justified, I think. Bourne gets some crucial plot info that he knew was most likely there, and it is actually a very efficient use of travel time. His end goal is Berlin. If he's travelling from Naples, Munich is literally on the way to Berlin. Berlin itself is sort of the hub of the film. It's where the majority of the shenanigans take place. Your classic thriller spy stuff. I should probably say at this point that this is a good movie. All that classic thriller spy stuff is some real quality, really fun, really brutal thriller spy stuff. With a bit of convenient amnesia recollection, but we will forget about that. The first movie in the series might be the best one, but this one isn't bad. So Berlin being the hub, where the majority of the plot unfolds, means him going there was necessary, now that he's in this deep. So that 310 miles from Munich to Berlin was required too. I mean, like, what was he going to do? Just stay in Munich after he blew some guy's house up? Just go back to India halfway through? The story progresses in Berlin in a way that it could have only progressed in Berlin in this version of events, not the better headcanon version of events where he stayed in India. There are revelations about Bourne's past, whose side everyone's on, And as a result of those revelations and some more of his amnesia taking very convenient smoke breaks, Bourne makes the 1,000-mile trip from Berlin to Moscow. He's looking for the daughter of some people he killed back when he was in the Super Soldier program. Why? To apologize. 1,000 miles to say sorry. Well, it's mainly 1,000 miles so the movie can have a climactic face-off with Leonardo Ulloa. But it is also 1,000 miles to say sorry. Never settle for a man who won't travel 1,000 miles to apologize to you for murdering your parents. Well, to apologize and to tell the daughter the truth. Closure, baby. This trip was for closure. I get that this is good for us, the audience. It is absolutely fried gold if you want us to sympathize with your hero. But is it entirely necessary? Bourne doesn't really have much of an arc in this movie in the sort of traditional sense. It's not like he starts the movie as like this heartless killing machine and he needs to learn the compassion that this apology scene is. He's really just a nice guy who's just stressed all the time and in very intense situations. But then on the other hand, someone he loved got murdered too, also under shady circumstances. So this really good scene is like a reflection of that. The 1,000 miles are debatable, is what I would say. What is not debatable is the 4,600 miles he travels right at the end from Moscow to New York. In New York, Bourne rings the head of the CIA team that has been after him, gets a little bit more story and character wrap-up, then pulls the same zinger reveal that he pulled earlier in the movie, that he was watching them the whole time they were speaking. My man goes all the way from Russia to America just to flex on him. I love it, but it is a trip that is not justified at all. So, Bourne covered 10,430 miles in this movie, remember. Of those many, many miles, I would say 830 of them are entirely justified. 1,000 of them are up in the air, and 8,600 of them are certainly not. That means 82% of the travelling Jason Bourne did in this movie is utterly pointless. Globetrotting for the sake of globetrotting. I'd just like to say at the end here that we only focused on the journey of the main character. That doesn't stop the rest of the movie jumping all over the place and 100% globetrotting for the sake of globetrotting. We get bits of London, Amsterdam, Zurich, multiple different places in Russia and the US. But it's a trope of the genre, as I said at the beginning of the video. You can't really have a gripe with it. Bond did it, so Bourne did it. Then Bond did it, because Bourne did it. And then the Fast and the Furious happened, and the distance between any 2 points on the face of the earth lost all meaning. Hello, thanks a lot for getting to the end of the video. Like and subscribe. I'm aware of how bad my hair looked in the video, which is why I got a trim. Movie video done. Burning Chrome number 2. Next. And then proper book. Yes. I need to get HBO Max for that. Spoiler.